Hi, I am Jean-Marc Léger, president of Léger, the largest Canadian-owned market research firm. When we face tomorrow's digital challenges with yesterday's method, we end up with today's problem. Less well-defined targets, less relevant content, less effective digital campaign, but above all, a poor return on investment. You know, Léger has 600 employees across North America, and we have access to so much data. And our job is to distinguish signal from noise and find the right insights for you guys to guide your actions. I've noticed over the years that we use data less in Canada in our marketing strategies than in the USA. One of the reasons is that most of the data are coming from USA and does not apply in Canada. This is why we decided to develop our own Canadian benchmark. This is the reason why I bought a digital marketing agency, Ressac, to better use the data and improve your marketing strategy. We want to offer you the best of the two worlds, accurate and pertinent data, and a tailor-made digital strategy. So for 36 years, we have been conducting market research and providing insights to clients. Then we run away. Now with Ressac, we stay, and we can prepare and execute the marketing strategy. It's what we call a 360 approach. This digital Canadian study that we will present today is unique in size and quality. You will receive a copy of this presentation, free of charge, of course, after this presentation. These data are even more important after the pandemic because habits, attitude, and behaviors have changed. People work, buy, and live more and more online. So we surveyed 3,000 representative Canadians in last August, so August 2022, 22nd. And this survey will become annual, so it will be easier for us to follow the trends over the years. So we offer you real data and real experts today. Do you know the difference between beginner and expert? In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, they only have few possibilities. This is what we will present you today. And you don't have to waste time, you know, with data, we don't have time to waste. And you have no margin of error. Contrary to the pollster, we have margin of error, but not you. So real data from real experts. So I would like to introduce you the Canadian expert in digital marketing, my partners and friend, the president of Ressac, Pablo Stevenson. Up to you, Pablo.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. First of all, folks, I'm super excited to be here with you. We have great insights to present you. And like Jean-Marc said, we have what we're showing you today. It's a very light version of our full digital strategy. So stay tuned because during the day, you should receive this capture for future reference and also a download link for the complete study later on. But again, what's the real purpose of this study? Like Jean-Marc said, we don't have enough Canadian data at this moment. Everyone has the same challenge. Do you have this benchmark for Ontario? Do you have this benchmark for BC, for example? Or we end up with very outdated data. I mean, a study conducted 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, has no value today. And timing is also key. The pandemic changed a lot of things, a lot of digital behaviors among the population, and we're facing an economic slowdown. So more than ever, right now, we need to make the right choices with the right information. And when we're talking about right choices, we can not talk about the platform choices of Canadians. The elephant in the room is still the good old Facebook. Facebook still dominates web usage. As you can see, at 83%, we can say that the vast majority of the population has a Facebook account, regardless of their social demographic profile. I mean, that's huge. There's, however, a significant difference on how age groups interact with the platform. So if you look to the right, we see that the 16 to 34 years old are not as active as older folks on the platform on a daily basis, we're talking about 56% engagement on a daily basis. You know, people, when you check your news feed in the morning when you wake up, during lunch or during the evening, just before going to bed, this is the kind of interaction that Facebook can provide us. If you look to the older segments, 35 to 55 years old, for example, it's up to 70% and more. So it's still very present in our daily lives. You know, when we see a lot of articles right now or supposedly experts saying that Facebook is dead, I will say to them, hold on. I mean, you see that there's a huge opportunity still for a lot of advertisers here, but needless to say that there's a lot of things that are completely at this moment are transforming and changing. So we ask the question, who's the public darling? And the question to the Canadians, the answer is with what you see on the left. If you only have to pick one social media network or messaging app, which one would it be? The result is unanimous. Look at the left, Facebook is still on top with Facebook Messenger, close second. On the other hand, with the younger audiences, we see a bit of the same portrait, but with a major difference. Facebook is being replaced by Instagram. And this is a trend that is just going to continue in the next months, next years, because this audience and this segment is growing and growing fast. It also shows the consolidation of meta properties among Canadians. I mean, gold medal and silver medal, it's directly from Meta with Messenger and Facebook and Instagram on the podium directly. But what about gender? Does gender make a difference? Well, you see it directly on the screen right now, of course. The adage that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, it's also true in the social media world. Well, what we observed is that women are more likely to be active on platforms like Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, and TikTok. While men, on the other hand, are way more active on LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, and Twitch. The exception of all of this, obviously, it's again our beloved Facebook that is as a shorter and closer gap between different genders. But we can say, and with a high level of confidence, that women tend to prefer more visually inspiring content, and men favor more textual, conversational content platforms. So it's something that is really important to take in consideration in your strategy. You know, the one size fits all doesn't really work on the social media world. I mean, reproducing what you're doing on Instagram and on Facebook, it all depends on the audience, and the audience is looking for different things. So this is really important to take in consideration in anything that you're doing in the future. Now let's talk about another main difference, usage across the country. You know, the famous two solitudes concept is also something true in the digital world, and especially the social media world. When it comes to social media platform, Quebec is behind the rest of Canada, as you can see in the adoption on Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Twitter, and even Reddit. Can we blame it on the language barrier? Probably. Is it the lack of French content? Probably as well. Or is it simply a lack of matter that Quebecers are not as early adopter as the rest of Canada? Maybe it's a bit of everything. I'm pretty sure that it's a mix of all those conditions at the same time. But something sure is that emerging platforms have a relatively high adoption rate in the rest of Canada that gives us the possibility of creating really interesting pieces of content and creativity to engage with this specific audiences. With messaging apps, it's also different. We have another main difference between Quebec and the rest of Canada, but not only Quebec. We also see the Atlantic provinces have a more, they're tailing Quebec in terms of usage of Facebook Messenger in comparison with WhatsApp, which is really big in the rest of Canada, with the exception of the Atlantic provinces in Quebec, probably due to the fact that, you know, cultural communities across the country are very engaged using WhatsApp to communicate with folks back home. So that's probably one of the reasons why, again, WhatsApp, it's really important. Another fact, obviously, that is in front of us, Messenger and WhatsApp are, again, properties of Meta, showing, again, the dominance of Meta in the Canadian social media space. But it's not only about demographics, obviously. There's also significant changes right now in terms of format adoption. So one of my favorite formats right now, it's obviously podcasts. And I love podcasts. You probably love podcasts too. First of all, when we say that podcasts are an emerging media, I mean, people are wrong. Podcasts are already emerged and are here to stay and again, grow and grow across all segments. Just to give you a quick stat, 6 in 10 Canadians listen to podcasts at this moment, and 1 in 4 say they listen to them on a weekly basis. This is huge. This is huge. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, obviously, for advertisers and brands out there. If we look into the younger segment, 77% of them use podcasts. So, I mean, it's the vast majority of the population, and around 40% listen to them on a weekly basis. Even older folks at 55 years old and more, 40% say they listen to them, and 12% listen to them on a weekly basis. And I'm telling you that those stats are just going to grow across the next month and years. Podcast is a consolidated medium at this moment. We also observed something interesting is that high income folks and also highly educated people tend to be more active in terms of listening to podcasts on a weekly basis, and also with higher adoption rates. So it shows you that people that are normally podcast aficionados can have a great buying power that can be interesting for content plays and strategies out there. So for us, podcasts are here to stay. They have reach, more and more reach, but also influence. And I mean, influence is not something only for podcasts. It's also about influencers. So I'm introducing today Malika, our VP of content, that is going to talk about influencers. Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. Hi, everyone. So we've discovered with our study that influencers and content creators are now real vectors of action. They affect not only our purchasing behavior, but also the perception and opinions of a brand or product. With that in mind, they can no longer be perceived as a mere media placement, but rather as a real player in a brand strategy. Although nearly a third of Canadian internet users follow influencers or content creators, we must still take into account that it is mainly the 16-24 years old at 63% that do so. More specifically, 59% of Canadian internet users between the age of 16 and 34 say they follow influencers and or content creators. On the other hand, this statistic drops to 33% among 35-54 years old and only 10% among the 55 plus. But there's a vast world of difference when it comes to influencers and content creators, and we see that those who dedicate themselves to a specific sphere earn their stripes. The most followed are content creators that share content about lifestyle, fashion, food, or comedy, followed by experts in specific subjects such as makeup, sport, or travel, and also international artists. What's interesting is that beyond the purely product-oriented content, there is also a form of support for everything local on social media, where 30% of Canadian internet users follow artists from their province, singer, actors, comedians. Unsurprisingly, this trend is a bit higher in Quebec than in the rest of Canada. We are in Quebec at 41% versus 30% in the other provinces. Now, we were very pleased to discover that beyond attracting the attention of growing portion of the population, we see now that influencers and content creators are increasingly shaping public opinion online. The magic number here to keep in mind is 73%. We have 73% of Canadian internet users who follow influencers and content creators that says that they have already changed their views or perception on a topic after being exposed to this type of content. We also have 73% that says that they have already changed the habit to either adopt a healthier lifestyle, boost self-esteem, or improve health after being exposed to this type of content. Last but not least, We also have 73% of them that say that they purchased a product or service after being exposed to this type of content. Now, looking at the role of influencers in the consumer decision-making process, as well as their most impactful presence online, we've discovered that Instagram is the key platform on which Canadian internet users follow influencers or content creators. Then will come YouTube at 44%, Facebook at 34%, TikTok at 28%, and Twitter at 20%. And beyond having an influence on the consumption of products and services, being exposed to content from an influencer content creator generates various types of action, starting by checking a website or an app at 86%, try something new, a sport, activity, or food at 77%, go to a restaurant, bar, or coffee shop at 72%, start following a brand at 68%. And here, a very interesting data is that among them, the 25-34 group leads at 82%. We also have consumer cultural product at 63%, visit a city or a city and a country at 46%, and make a donation for an organization or a cause at 44%. Another interesting fact that we have here is that an influencer's or content creator's purchasing influence reaches all income level. There's no difference. Now we did the same exercise looking at branded content. And overall, more than 1 in 3 Canadian internet users follow a brand or a company on social media. Among these, we have 62% of Canadian internet users aged 25-34 that say they follow brands on social media, followed by other age groups, 58% of 16-34, 44% of those aged 35 and 54, while only 17% of those aged 55 and plus. Last but not least, we have 77% of people aged 25 and 34 that will follow a brand on Instagram. Now, the big question is, why do we unfollow a brand on social media? And that's the question that we really wanted to answer, and the results are quite interesting. Reason number 1, the brand is boring. 60% of Canadian internet users who follow a brand or a company say that they will unsubscribe from an account if the content is uninteresting, either useless or boring. Unsurprisingly, Canadian internet users are more likely to follow brands or product that put on advertising that leads to a more valuable, enjoyable internet experience, whether it's funny, entertaining, informative, or original. 70% of the 16-34 age group agree with this statement, making them especially discerning when it comes to advertising. Reason number 2, the brand's values don't resonate with me. 50% of Canadians unsubscribe when a brand posts too frequently. Conversely, 11% of Canadians indicated that they unsubscribe if the brand does not post, 21% because they don't want to be associated with this particular brand. With that in mind, we really have to keep that corporate values are increasingly at the heart of consumer priorities, and this should be reflected in the content that is being shared. Last but not least, reason number 3, the brand reaches out too often. 50% of Canadians unsubscribe when a brand posts too frequently. Conversely, 11% of Canadians indicated that they unsubscribe if the brand does not post often enough. So there's no magic formula that can predict how often you can post on a brand's social platform. However, always avoid oversharing with your audience. And a little side note here, forget contest if you want to generate qualified leads. We've discovered that the third of Canadians will unsubscribe following the announcement of a contest winner. Now that we've looked at the reasons we unsubscribe, let's have a look at what triggers a subscription. While online shopping is a growing phenomenon, we were very surprised to discover that in-person shopping is still an integral part of the consumer journey. In fact, 81% of Canadian internet users who follow a brand or a company online say that they started to do so after setting foot in a store or visiting a business. And this is significant trend is across all age group. So let's keep in mind that investing into your customer experience in store is still very important to this day. Last but not least, advertising continues to exert persuasive power despite the rapid transformation of the digital world. We've discovered that 75% of Canadian internet users who follow a brand or a company say that they have already started following them after seeing a sponsored post on social media. We've also discovered that 66% of them follow the brand after seeing an advertisement elsewhere online, for instance, a banner. But what is good and attractive advertising nowadays? Let's have a look at some of the insights that Sylvain has for us.
Thank you, Malika. Yes, attractiveness in advertising is key, right? As the digital offer evolves, so does the consumer's perception of advertising. Consumers now, more than ever, want content that matches their needs and their interests, both in terms of the offer, so the content and the ads, and the format, so how these ads are delivered to them. In other words, when brands put out forced and generic advertising, it increases the user's negative impressions of the brand. There are a few key numbers here. 78% of Canadians don't like digital advertising in its broadest sense. So it might have been the same for a long time, not necessarily only digital, but still what changes today is that 70% of these people that don't like ads also have tools that they can use to avoid ads at all costs. So they can even, I don't know, browse the internet using private browsing, or they can use an ad blocker. So these aren't massive numbers. On the other hand, Canadian internet users say that they like online ads that are tailored or customized to their interests and passions. So also Canadian internet users who are present, so these people that are also present on social platforms, let's say YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, or that follow influencers, content creators, and brands on social platforms, are even more likely to appreciate personalized advertising. It rises up from 51% up to 64%, which again is super interesting because these people have been experimenting new ways of advertisement, new formats that respect their behaviors and needs. So we need to learn from that. Also, among internet users who say that they don't like digital advertising in general, there is a very interesting note to make here. 75% of these people do follow influencers or content creators, and 74% follow brands and businesses on social media. So they don't like ads, like in the traditional definitions, but they do act with brands and creators online that they do follow these people and these brands that are displaying them content that is very close to an ad, right? So when we read between the lines, we realize that content is king. Traditional advertising can be boring, and even though internet users are well aware that influencers and brands might be selling a product or their brands or a lifestyle, they are also way more easily tolerated. So speaking of traditional advertising, there is another very clear message here. 89% of Canadian internet users do not like pre-roll video ads that they are forced to watch entirely before seeing the content that they were looking for initially. So, you know, the typical 15-second, 30-second ad. On the other end, video ads that can be skipped after a few seconds, 5-6 seconds generally, are appreciated by nearly half the Canadian internet population at 47%, which is much higher than traditional pre-rolls. In plain English, let's all together stop spamming people with pre-rolls. In its traditional definition, people are looking for the interesting piece of content. There's also there's other tactics in digital space, in the digital space, like advertising, retargeting, and high frequencies that will have a very negative impact on how people perceive advertising. Retargeting, like seeing an ad after searching on Google or visiting a website, is criticized by 76% of the population, and it's a very close number, 74%, that don't like high frequency, so being exposed to the same ad over a short period of time. So, and they also go along, and we see them like, the more retargeting we are exposed to, the more the same ads we are seeing. So these might work with the tiny portion of people that are clicking on the ads, but they are also hurting a brand at the same time, and we need to keep that in mind. It's clear that digital advertising formats and strategies must adapt to user preferences and follow trends. The big five, the GAFAM, as we know them, probably more GAMAM now, with Facebook being Meta, and some local media groups have been able to do this and to adapt over the years by developing new advertising products that are adapted to these new forms of media consumptions. So we need to find ways to work together, to better work together in our industry, to make this change happen, and to even accelerate this change. Just mentioned GAFAM, and when we mention GAFAM, we need to talk obviously about online privacy. So at a time where data privacy is a societal issue and a major concern for businesses, we discovered that 1 in 4 Canadian internet users, 25%, say that they are open to sharing more of their own personal information on digital platforms. Only if it allows them to improve their experience or personalize the content that they're going to be exposed to. So yes, the population, the internet population, is ready to give something to you, but they expect something in return, and that's super important. That being said, there is a marked generational divide, again, between the 16 to 34 years old and the 55 years old and over. 16 to 34 are open to sharing more information at 38%. 55 and over, 15%. And it's even lower with the 65 years old and more. So we understand for brands and publishers, it's a major challenge. So we have a portion of the population that is open to give more information, but not everyone is. Still, this is a golden opportunity as well for brands, as well for publishers, to be creative, to develop creative and transparent strategies to generate more first-party data, knowing that the first-party data with third-party cookie disparity, that's going to be over in a little while. We need, this is going to, the first-party data is going to become the new gold, right? So we need to take care of that right now. And again, speaking of behaviors that are specific to the 16 to 34, there is a rise of interest for paid access to local platforms and publishers. So in fact, 55% of this segment of the population say that I'm ready to pay to access to a news outlet or a streaming platform in order to avoid ads. But it goes down to 32% for 50 years old and over. And it's again lower for 65 years old and over. So although 42% of the overall Canadian internet population is willing to pay for free ad content, Canadian internet users age of 55 and over essentially advocate for free media, which is, again, not only problematic, but it is in terms of monetization, right? So Last but not least, there's another good news for our media industry. The local advertising is a hit. What do we mean by that? It's 67%, so more of 2/3 of the Canadian internet users that are clearly in favor of local advertiser, local businesses increasing their advertising placements with local media outlets. So people want companies to be investing locally. This statistic is significantly higher in the Atlantic provinces, where it rises up to 75%, 74%, I'm sorry, of internet users that support an increase in local advertising investment. So yes, our population wants to protect our local media industry. We, at some point, even want to save it, right? But not at any costs. We need to remember, we need to consider the frustration created by our advertising products that still today is offered in a very traditional way by many local medias. And there's a clear dichotomy that is emerging here. And more than ever, local players in the media industry will have to innovate and listen to the population when looking into ways of monetizing their content. So this is the end of our Digital Canada 2023 summary. Before proceeding to our Q&A session, let me remind you that later on today, you will receive an email with the URL for the recording of this webinar, as well as all the information on how to access the complete and free study that we used today for this webinar. And as we said initially, there's more data, it's more complete. So lots of information that you're going to be able to go through. So right now, let's switch to the Q&A session. On to you, Pablo. Any questions yet?
Thank you so much. Yes, we have a few questions. So guys, don't hesitate to send us a couple of questions here in the chat or Q&A option directly on Zoom here. One of the questions that we have that comes along, it's TikTok. Obviously, I can answer that, obviously, but Malika, don't hesitate to add up to that. Do we have stats or do we cover TikTok? Yes, you will see in our full study, all the information about TikTok usage and all the stats that you saw previously. You're going to see the rise of TikTok. And Malika, if you can say a few words about your observation of TikTok right now. It's, well, something that it's part of our lives right now. Everyone's talking about it, but is it something that brands should be active on right now?
That's a great question. So yeah, just to make it clear, because we have a question here that really asks if it was taking into consideration with the younger generation. So I'm confirming yes. Not only we have TikTok, we have Discord, we have Twitch, all emerging platforms are part of it. What you had today is really a summary, but if you download our complete digital study, you will have a big chart, because a study should always come with a chart that has the full portrait, if I may say in English, of users, age group through all of the platforms that there is on social media. And to answer Pablo's question, it's funny to see how everybody's talking about TikTok, everybody's having questions about TikTok. But if we look at the plain and simple facts, is that as of right now, we have 27% of Canadian users that are on TikTok. Just so you have a little bit of perspective, Snapchat is at 28%. So there's still 1% of population higher on Snapchat than on TikTok. So TikTok is the big trend now, and I'm sure it will stay because it is a great platform that can bring many things for brand positioning. However, let's keep in mind here that even if it's trending right now, it's not everybody who's on it. And you would be quite surprised also to look at the age groups. So please download our full report and you will have all of this information.
Thank you, Mali. A question for you, Sylvain. Can you clarify what local advertising covers exactly?
Can you say that again? Excuse me, didn't get a question.
Yeah, can you clarify what local advertising covers?
But local advertising, well, it's more about local media. So investing in media outlets, in publisher that are based in Canada or in specific provinces. So that's what we mean by local advertising. Obviously, some of these are bigger players than others in our industry. We all know that. But for the sake of this study, we made sure to we asked people if they were open and would require brands to invest more locally, so investing dollars with publishers that are based and from Canada.
Thank you, Sylvain. Another great question here. I'm curious about the note on contests being not an effective tactic for consumer recruitment. I wonder about the impact on engagement and customer lifecycle.
That's a great question on which I have a lot of opinions. I'm going to try to make it short and simple. I have to be honest and say that I was very pleased to have the result that we have today that really says that a third of Canadians will unsubscribe from a page after they announce the winner of a contest. Because overall, a lot of brands will use contests to attract user on their page. Is the wrong KPI to me. Is we keep sticking on the amount of followers we have rather than the quality of followers that we have. And contests will boost your amount, right? But it doesn't increase the quality. So here, there is this famous question with the CLV and what's the impact? And honestly speaking, there's no big impact because those people will stick around because of the contest, but they don't care about you. They don't care about your product and they don't care about your values. So even if they stay on your page afterwards, they're not the real ones that will truly engage with your content. And then this will also have an impact on your reach, right? So to me, it's 1 + 1 = 2. Of course, it's not all contests that are bad. This morning in French, we had a great question about influencers in contest. And so if you're making a contest that is maybe more niche, that speaks to your real public, using an influencer or a content creator, for instance, could be interesting because you're talking to maybe an audience that is more suited to who you are.
Thank you. Another question about our famous TikTok here. Is there any data that shows any privacy concerns with Canadians regarding the amounts of data that TikTok is mining from its users? Because we spoke about, I think, the privacy and the willingness of users of sharing their data, especially younger people. So can you comment on that, Sylvain?
Yeah, we didn't question people on on privacy issue regarding each one of the platforms. So we have a few data points on how secure people are on digital platforms and so on across provinces and in Canada in general. But we don't have the information in regards to every platform. So that's something that we should be keeping in mind for the future, for sure.
Thank you. Another quick question here about Facebook habits. Maybe one of you both can answer that. This may have been answered, but when it comes to Facebook habits, are there specific tools that might be contributing to the statistic, like the use of marketplace, for instance? Like we know that Facebook marketplace is highly used.
Yeah.
Is it are people looking at the newsfeed or a marketplace, or I don't know, there's events, for example?
Again, sorry, Manny, but if I can say very quickly, we didn't again question how people were using Facebook. We separated Messenger from Facebook, obviously. Within Facebook, obviously, people are using Marketplace. People are going into Facebook for Facebook Watch and also very much for groups. So this is something that we know for sure, but did not question within the survey, within the this study.
If I may just correct that, we did ask what's their behavior online. the answer on this one did not came as an insight. So we do have some data. We didn't put it into our study because we do not have any relevant insight that came in that is like mind blowing, if I may say. The usage is quite similar on this platform, and we were looking more into like, are you looking to get informed? Are you looking to get entertained? So we didn't go into specifics of what you can do on that platform. But to the point of Sylvain, like obviously right now, Facebook is turning more and more into a community oriented, so private groups or marketplace local pages is really why we're going on Facebook nowadays.
Thank you. We have a question. I'm going to try to resume it short as possible, but do we have any information about online TV or skippable ads? Well, matter of fact, formats. Do we cover that in our study about what are the most favorite formats of Canadians, or the most performing ones? Sylvain? You're mute.
Again, can you point me the question? I'm missing a point.
Yeah.
So if we have data on connected TV and no, so we did not survey this format in specific. We kept this on online and digital, being digital platforms and web-based or mobile-based applications, but not in terms of connected TV. So yes, as a media agency, we're monitoring what's happening with connected TV in Canada. There is a growing capacity there, but we haven't surveyed this in this study.
Thank you. One question that is really interesting is about content here. It's were some of the values respondents refer to when suggesting that the unfollow a brand if their brand values and the individual values don't align. I don't know if we answered that in our survey, but maybe on your opinion, is there something based on your experience, Malika, that shows something that people don't really like?
Values are a very subjective thing, so there's no specific answer to that. To answer to the first question in the survey, we really focused on values without giving any categories of values that could resonate with Canadians. However, I think that this is a great question, and we have many great questions here that we will certainly use in moving forward into our next study. But yeah, this one was really about values in general. But I think that what's interesting as well is that famous 21% of people that say that they don't want to be associated with this particular brand. So it speaks a lot there.
Thank you. Another question still on influencer. I think we have a couple of questions about influencers that people are very interested into answering. One of them is when partnering with influencers to say promote an event, is there a specific type of content, like for instance Instagram Reels, stories, that are most likely to be influential? Like, okay, choosing the right influencers is really important, but choosing the right format as well, it's important, I guess. So how would you tackle that? Is there any recommendations about that, Malika?
It's first and foremost, before thinking about format, is making sure that the influencer speaks to the right audience on the right platform. What's interesting that we've discovered with this study is that they are everywhere. And that's literally incredible to find out that influencers and influencer content, they are influencing on every single platform that there is. So let's start by choosing the right influencer with the right audience on the right platform, and then the platform will tell you what type of format is better. Of course, if you're Instagram, we'll be thinking about videos. I think we all know what's going on Instagram as well, and what happened within the last 3 months with Reels and videos coming more, but then the community complaining about having too many videos and not enough pictures anymore. So, you know, those platforms and formats, they change every 6 months or so, right? So what is good today may be not good in 6 months. We'll see, but it's all about the platform first.
We're gonna take one or two more questions, and one of them, it's really a really interesting question here. Well, we discuss about the changes of the pandemic on the digital behaviors of Canadians. What about the rising cost of living? Do you think that there's going to be a major shift here because like people are shifting their behaviors as well? Can be something that brings people back to traditional media, cable TV, free channels, for example? What's your POV on that, guys?
Well, that's a good curveball, I would say. There's plenty here. Obviously, the rising cost of living will influence everything in our lives. It's even becoming problematic. So in terms of let's take an example of social streaming platforms. So which one should I be subscribing to? Because by the end of the day, it starts to cost quite a lot when you subscribe to Disney Plus or Crave, or I mean even the one local in Quebec or elsewhere. So we have to be careful. But yeah, obviously it's going to be impacting how people are using internet, how people are using digital, or they are behaving on digital. But we're also seeing in the study that people are impacted a lot by physical experiences. So people will also be outside and not only on digital platforms. So I don't know, Mali, if you have anything to add, but it's a good question that will require probably a little bit more time to get into all the details.
I don't know, maybe I'm an optimistic, but when I see that the 1634 are really into an approach that are willing to give money for personalized content, maybe one will cut down a subscription, but I don't think there's going to be a major impact. I doubt it.
Thank you. Guys, we're going to close this. We're really, really happy about the questions. I know we have a lot of questions, but timing is running out. And you guys going to receive, again, a caption about the capture of this webinar, as well as a link for a download so you can check in details everything that we're covering on the study. This is the first edition, obviously, and we're taking a lot of feedback and seeing how we can enhance the experience for next time and answer more questions. It's going to be really exciting. So we're very happy about your interest, and don't hesitate to contact us for anything. Ressac has been working along with Léger for the last year since our acquisition, and I have something to say that since we have access to those insights and data, it makes a huge difference in our campaigns and performance. So taking this information and making it actionable, has a value, and there's something that Ressac will be gladly there and excited to help you achieve your goals there. So if you have anything, hit us up. We're available online. You're going to see our contact information on our document, and let us know for everything, and keep following us. We are going to share more studies and stats along the way in the next few months. Thank you so much. And again, have a good day.